Good morning, all of you, and welcome to this session number 16 of video lecture series Antenna and Wave Propagation. And in this lecture, we are going to understand the propagation of electromagnetic waves to ionosphere, and this the mechanisms, the several effects which will go on in this communication to ionosphere, and we also find some electrical characteristics of the ionosphere in this particular session. In last 4 lectures, we were understanding what were different modes of propagation through the troposphere. So this time we are moving to some more height in the atmosphere. I mean, we are trying to understand the mode of communication through the ionospheric layer of the atmosphere. So as we know very well that the atmosphere around the Earth's surface is made of several layers. The first layer we had understood is troposphere, which is the first layer in contact with the Earth's surface. And as we move upward, we find another layer. That layer is known as ionospheric layer. This layer is made of ions. In this particular layer, this layer is extending from some 90 kilometers from the Earth's surface up to thousands of kilometers. So, and this whole layer is consisting of free electrons and ions and so on. And these free electrons are made by ionization of the ions in that particular layer. And what are these ions? So these layers is full of several gaseous molecules, different gaseous molecules. And these molecules get ionized in presence of the sun radiations. And because of the ionization, there are different densities of free electrons and ions, and that's why this layer is known as ionosphere. Before we start, we will go through a definition of ionization. Ionization is the process of evolution or ejection of an electron from an stable molecule because of the incidence of some radiation. Assume you are having oxygen molecule, and in oxygen molecule, all the electrons are bonded to their respective atoms, and the atoms are combined to form a particular molecule. Now, as some radiation, suppose from sun, if some radiations from sun with sufficient energy incidents on this oxygen molecule, the molecule disturbed, the atomic structure inside the molecule get disturbed, and the some of the electron of the outermost shell gets out of the atom. These electrons, which are earlier bounded by the nucleus, are bounded by the atomic structure inside the molecule. They get free now, and these electrons are known as free. When we have this electron free from the oxygen molecule, in the oxygen molecule, there we found a deficiency of electron or deficiency of negative charge, and so the electrical neutrality of the molecule disturbed. The molecule become positively charged because some of the negative charge in terms of that particular electron is removed, and the electron is freed now. So the remaining molecule with some inherent positive charge or with some extra positive charge is known as positive ion. Okay, so in similar manner, the procedure is same for production or preparation of different ions in the or different ions and free electrons in the ionosphere due to some radiation is same as it is the ionization itself. And because of this ionization, uh, there exist free electrons as well as immobile or very heavy molecules and heavy ions also. Okay, so obviously the mobility of electron is too much inside the ionospheric layer, and mobility of the free ions and if gaseous molecules, if there exist some gaseous molecules which are not perfect, which are not ionized, so their mobility is quite slow as compared to electrons. And in our calculations, in our analysis, we consider that all these all these ions and the gaseous molecules are immobile. So another important parameter of understanding these or understanding phenomena going through this ionospheric layer is ionization density. It is the density of free electron in the ionization layer itself. Okay, so if radiation from sun incidents on this layer having various gaseous molecules, and they strike this gaseous molecule, the gaseous molecule become ionized and some free electrons get removed. So because of these free electrons, or these free electrons are having a certain density in a certain environment or in a certain region of this ionosphere, that density is known as the ionization density. Later on in the lecture itself, we will use the free electron density or electron density term to uh, represent this quantity. So this is ionization density. Now, if we think of the nature of this ionization density or electron density or ion density across troposphere, or sorry, ionosphere, we found that this ionization density is low at the top layer of the ionosphere. Top layer means the layer which is towards the sun, okay, which is opposite to the earth's surface. It is also very low on the lower layer of the ionosphere, the layer which is towards the earth's surface, or which is at a distance of approximately 90 kilometers from the earth. But in between these two, there is a maxima of this ionization density. Why it happens? It happens because when radiation starts incidenting from sun towards the ionosphere, they have sufficient intensity. Okay, and with this sufficient intensity, they strike the upper layer of the upper portion of the ionosphere. But since the upper portion of the ionosphere is very far from the Earth's surface, there exists very less number of gaseous molecules. The gaseous molecule density is very low at the upper surface of ionosphere. Now you are having very high intensity radiation, but very less amount of gaseous molecules. That's why this high radiation will ionize very less amount of gaseous molecules, and that's why the ionization is also very less. Correspondingly, the ionization density is very small. So at the top of the ionosphere, ionization is very small because the gaseous density or the density of environment on the upper layer of the ionosphere is very low. Though the radiations are having much intensity, but it is not, it cannot ionize many gaseous particles since not much gaseous particles are available there. Okay. Now, the remaining radiations which are not used for ionization in the upper layer, they dive inside this ionosphere from sun. Okay, we are looking from sun itself. So they are incidenting from sun to the upper layer of ionosphere. Some of the or very less number of gaseous molecules get ionized. As these radiation move inside the ionosphere, the density of the ionosphere increases. More number of gaseous molecules are available there. Now, as these radiation move inside, the density of ionosphere increases, and density means the gaseous molecules in the ionosphere increases, as well as the intensity is also sufficient. So, I should say gradually the ionization density increases, and the process of ionization takes place more and more. And correspondingly, as you move, as you start decreasing the height of ionization layer or ionospheric layer, you find that initially the ionization density is very small, but later on the density increases. And up to a certain height of the ionization layer from Earth's surface, you find that or at a certain height, you find that the ionization density become maximum. At this particular layer, large number of gaseous molecules get ionized because of this radiation from sun. So all in all, complete energy of the solar radiations get absorbed by these ions at this particular height, and many number of or many gaseous molecules get ionized. And because of that, we get large ionization density. Suppose we move further below towards the Earth's surface in the ionization layer or ionospheric layer, the radiation, much of the radiation get already absorbed in the upper portion and mid portion. The remaining radiations are having very low intensity. There are very few radiation coming to the lower edge. Though the lower edge is having highest gaseous density, because towards the earth, as you move towards the earth surface, the density of atmosphere increases. So obviously at the lower edge of ionosphere, uh, density of gaseous molecule is too much. But since the radiation incidenting from sun, they pass through the upper layer, some of the radiation get absorbed, they pass to the mid layer, some of the radiation get absorbed, and the remaining radiation is having very low intensity. And these very low intensity radiations are unable to ionize this uh, the gaseous molecules available in the lower part of the ionosphere. And that's why again the ionization density decreases. Okay. In order to understand this phenomena, you can think of the uh, perhaps the concept of work function. Okay, you know very well that if a radiation of frequency f incidents on a gaseous molecule or a molecule or a stable atom, suppose a stable molecule, and we need that this or we know that this gaseous molecule can be ionized if some minimum amount of energy incident is provided to this particular atom. That energy is known as ionization energy. First ionization energy. The first ionization energy means the energy required to remove one electron from this stable molecule. Okay. Now suppose the incidenting radiation is having a frequency f. We know very well that a radiation with frequency f is supposed to be having an energy bundle. That energy bundle is known as photon, and energy of that photon is given by h nu. So obviously, and perhaps by the theory of the, I'm not sure about that. So we know very well that when a photon incidents on a particle, the particle will absorb, the molecule will absorb the complete photon. Now, if the energy of this complete photon is greater than the energy, ionization energy of the material, in that case, some electron will evolve from that atom. Otherwise, this energy absorbed will again released and there will be no ionization. Okay. So the same thing we can express in terms of this expression. If W is the ionization energy of a molecule, suppose when we are talking about SI systems, this is known as Joule. And HF is the energy of the photon incidenting, where F is the frequency and H is the Planck's constant. This is given by 6.6261 into 10 to the power minus 34 joules second. If the ionization energy of the molecule is less than the energy of the photon incidenting on that molecule, in that case there will be ionization. Otherwise, there will be no ionization. Okay. So to understand this phenomena, there is an numerical here that suppose an oxygen molecule is having ionization energy of 12.5 electron. It is just an example. Okay. So you have given an oxygen molecule which is having ionization energy of 12.5 electron volt. Since the energy or ionization energy generally is written in terms of electron volt. So how can you convert this ionization energy into joule? So you substitute the magnitude of electronic charge. Yes, it become ionization energy of the oxygen become 12.5 into electronic charge is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, and the total 12.5 into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 will be the total will be the ionization energy of oxygen given in joule. Okay, so in this way you can convert this energy to joule. Now you have to find out the range of frequency which can ionize this oxygen atom. Okay, so we know very well that or we assume that the minimum frequency required is f. Suppose the frequency required for ionization is given by f. In that case, the photon with frequency f should have energy hf. H is Planck's constant, as we have explained in this particular expression. So the photon with frequency f should have energy hf in such a manner that this h into f, the energy of photon, should be equal to greater than ionization energy, that is this 12.5 into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 Joule. So substituting everything here, you have W 12.5 into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 less than or less than H is this quantity 6.6261 into 10 to the power minus 34 Joule second into F, that F is unknown. When you perform this inequality, you find that F should be greater than a certain quantity. So for any radiation with frequency greater than this particular quantity, the quantity is W by H. So if F is greater than W by H, F is greater than 12.5 into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 divided by 6.6261 into 10 to the power minus 34, you find that there will be ionization. And for any frequency below this value, below W by H, there will be no ionization. So the ionization frequency for this oxygen will be from W by H up to infinity. Any frequency beyond W by H will be acceptable as the ionization, acceptable for the ionization of this oxygen. The second question is to report the same range in terms of wavelength. So we have reported that the frequency range responsible for ionization of this oxygen atom is W by H to infinity. And we know when we have frequency, we can find the wavelength in free space. Here we consider wavelength in free space. So we find the wavelength by C by F. So obviously the wavelength corresponding to infinite frequency will be C by infinity, that is 0. And wavelength corresponding to the frequency W by H will be C by W by H, that is CH by W. So in this manner, we can report that the wavelength sufficient for ionization will be from 0 up to CH by W. That will be the ionization frequency range and ionization wavelength range for this oxygen atom. You perform this numerical so that you become more comfortable with this ionization phenomenon. Okay. Now these are some informations about this ionosphere. Ionosphere consists of 3 layers, D, E and F. And D is the lowest layer, E is middle layer and F is the upper layer. And these 3 layers are not always present in the ionosphere. They present, some of the layers will present in daytime, some in nighttime and some in both times. So D layer presents only in daytime. It is absent in night times. E and F, both layers present in both the 2 times, day and night, E and F both. But F splits into 2 layers, F1 and F2 in daytime. Okay, in daytime. Why this is distinction in layers because of the day and night? Obviously, because sun radiations are unavailable in a particular region in night time. So suppose it's night in India, so sun radiations are not coming, or they are not coming with such high intensity on the ionosphere above India at that particular night time, and that's why the radiation intensity decreases and correspondingly the ionization density changes. So we get different layers and different time. Okay, so that's why we are having this particular layers. These E and F layer, which are available at every time, day and night, they are available at every time. They make the long distance communication possible by reflecting frequencies in the range of 3 megahertz to 30 megahertz. Keep this thing in mind. So from 3 to 30 megahertz, this is the frequency range which will get reflected from E and F layers in both day and night. On the basis of experiments, it has been found. Okay, and maybe we can establish some results also. Okay, so E and F layers in both day and night times make long distance communication possible by reflecting frequencies in the range of 3 to 30 megahertz, and frequencies above this 30 megahertz pass through the ionosphere. They will not reflect back. From your point of view, from a receiver point of view, the communication going on, or this communication link from a receiver point of view, when you have a transmitter on the Earth's surface, you have a receiver on the Earth's surface, transmitter is sending some frequency in the range between 3 megahertz to 30 megahertz. What happens? The wave reaches to ionosphere. Later on, we will understand this mechanism in more detail. So it reaches the ionosphere and somehow it reflects back. So from the receiver point of view, this is the range in which frequencies propagate through ionosphere. Okay, you can receive. And the frequencies above this particular range, your frequency above 30 megahertz, their frequencies will get absorbed by the ionosphere and they will not reflect back. So from a receiver point of view on Earth's surface, you can say that the frequencies above 30 megahertz will get absorbed or will get attenuated by the ionosphere, but the frequencies in this particular range, 3 megahertz to 30 megahertz, they get communicated or they get reflected. Okay. So D layer is present only during the daytime and doesn't reflect frequencies in the range 3 megahertz and 30 megahertz. Rather, it attenuates these frequencies. Okay. So this is just for your information. Now there are two effects. One is the sudden ionospheric disturbance or Dellinger effect due to sudden eruption on, this is not Earth surface, this is Sun surface. Okay. So because of some operations or some events which occurs randomly on the surface of Sun, large amount of radiation, if large amount of radiation reaches the D layer, if somehow it is possible, D layer is the lowest layer towards the Earth surface. Okay. So if somehow the generally what happens, the radiation reaching to D layer are very weak in intensity, and that's why the ionization density on the D layer is very low. But suppose somehow the radiations are very strong up to D layers also. In that case, what happens? They will ionize the D layer also. When they ionize the D layer also, this will improve the absorption of radio waves passing through layer. As we have written upward that this range 3 to 30 megahertz is reflected back from E and H. But to get reflected from E and H, these waves should reach with a strong, with sufficient power up to that E layer when it passed through D. If D layer is ionized too much, the absorption of radio wave by this particular D layer increases. And this will reduce the quality of the communication through E and F layers in the ionosphere region. Okay, this phenomena is known as sudden ionospheric disturbance. I hope it is understandable to you. The absorption of communicating frequencies due to the D layer or due to the increase in ionization density of the D layer is known as sudden ionospheric disturbance. This sudden increase in ionization density of the D layer is because of some random phenomena going on the surface of Sun. If suddenly the intensity of radiation from Sun increases, in that case, this kind of phenomena takes place. Similarly, there is another phenomena known as ionospheric storm. What is ionospheric storm? Ionospheric storm is due to this kind of ionospheric storm, ionosphere become irregular. On the basis of our studies, on the basis of the theoretical models, on the basis of several experiments performed, it was the structure of ionosphere gets established. We had established, or scientists have established, that it is having 3 layers: E, D, E, and F. F is divided into 2 parts, F1 and F2 in daytime. D is available only in the daytime. Nighttime, we are not having D. So all these establish a particular structure, but somehow, because of some irregularity, many of the time the structure become irregular. The ionosphere structure become irregular, and so this irregularity, which is random in nature, if it is random in nature, it will affect the performance of communication. Okay, this is known as ionospheric storm, the disturbance in the structure of ionosphere. And what's the meaning of structure here? The meaning is the variation in densities from their usual values. Variation in ionization density from their usual value. If somehow they differ from their predicted graph, obviously the link of communication will get disturbed. Okay, though this is a regular phenomenon and it is a periodic phenomenon which occurs every 27-day interval. So on the basis of experiment, it has been also established that this phenomenon is periodic, and in this manner the communication through this ionosphere will be optimized on the basis of this information. Okay, it can be optimized. So now we are heading towards some technical details of ionosphere. As we have mentioned already, that the ionosphere is made of free electrons and ions, heavy ions. And these heavy ions, because of their heavy weight, we consider them to be immobile. So ionosphere is made of free electrons and heavy ions. And generally, these electrons and heavy ions are made of, or the free electrons is evolved from molecules. Since the molecules are neutral, that's why after ionization, jointly free electron and the ion, jointly they become again neutral. So technically, if you sum up the complete negative charge and complete positive charge in the ionosphere, you found that the total charge is zero. But it is possible that in a particular region, there exists a positive charge more than negative charge, or there exists negative charge more than positive charge. It is due to the irregularity, it is due to the propagation of electromagnetic wave, it is due to some other effects, it is due to storming, it is due to anything, lightning and anything. So this phenomena, this material, I should say, the material or actually it is the state of medium. So a state of medium in which there exist positive charges in the medium, there exist negative charges in the medium, but time average charge density is zero. Keep this thing in mind. Time average charge density is zero, is known as plasma. Okay, so if you, for a long time, if you sum up the positive charges in a region and some of the negative charges in the region, you found that they are equal and total charge density is zero. Then that state of medium is known as plasma. Why we are understanding this plasma? Because the structure or the ingredients preparing this ionosphere, uh, they the medium of the ionosphere is also behaves like this plasma. There are some positive charges in terms of the immobile ions. There are negative charges in terms of free electrons. Immobile ions are having less mobility, so suppose we consider that to be stationary, so they are fixed. Only electrons are moving, and in general, the average charge density in ionosphere is zero. So we can approximate this medium in the ionosphere as plasma. Now, if we consider ionosphere as plasma, plasma has an important property. And what's that property? The property is, suppose you are having a medium, suppose you are having a plasma medium, as you can see in figure 54 here, from 0 to D, you can see the positive and negative charge separately are available there, but average charge density across this medium is 0. Okay, so it is, okay, it's a balanced plasma. If somehow some of the positive charge and some of the negative charge get disturbed or get away from this plasma medium, or due to some of positive and negative charge, there exists some sort of imbalance, as you can see here in figure 54. Because of some external effect, some positive charge get separated from plasma, some negative charge get separated from plasma. This disturbance is generally the electromagnetic wave we are considering from our point of view. So we consider this disturbance due to the electromagnetic waves propagating through the ionosphere. So ionosphere is a plasma medium. We consider this plasma medium to be balanced. It is having zero average charge density, but because of propagation of electromagnetic waves, some disturbance is there, and because of this disturbance, some of the positive charge and some of the negative charge get separated out, as you can see in figure 54. Okay, and we consider that this positive and negative charge separation will make a thin layer on the both these edges of the plasma medium. So at one edge, uh, we are having a layer of positive charges of thickness x, and similarly we consider that we are having a negative charge of thickness x on the other side. As you can see, this plasma is extending from minus infinity to infinity in y direction and minus infinity to infinity in z direction. Only along x direction we are limiting this particular or for understanding. So in that particular case, when such phenomena occur or when such disturbance occur in the plasma plasma medium tries to pull back these positive and negative charges. Okay, so if some disturbing force, some electromagnetic, in our case, some electromagnetic wave propagating through the plasma, it disturbs this position of positive and negative charge. Plasma tries to pull back these positive and negative charges again to make their own structure stable, or to make the complete plasma system stable. Okay, and the force applied by this plasma will be restoring forces, and obviously they are trying to pull these positive and negative charges back in the medium itself, so that the system again become electrically neutral or with average zero charge density. So these forces are known as restoring forces, and it leads to simple harmonic motion of these charges. This is an important concept that will be used for analysis of ionosphere. First of all, we establish this result, and after that we go for the next. First of all, we will establish the result that there exists simple harmonic motion in plasma if there exists some disturbance in the plasma due to, suppose, some external factor. In our case, the external factor is an electromagnetic wave propagating through the plasma medium. Okay, so for that, to establish this phase, we assume that as shown in figure 54a, there is a plasma environment, and because of some arbitrary movement of charge particle, this arbitrary movement is because of the electromagnetic wave propagating through the this plasma medium in our case. Okay, there may be other reasons, but for our concern, we consider that this is only due to the electromagnetic waves propagating through this plasma. So it disturbs the movement of charge particle and displaces the charge particles up to a very small displacement. So some of the positive charge makes a layer of thickness X, and some of the negative charge makes a layer of thickness X on both sides of the plasma, as seen in the figure 54. Now if it is assumed that this D is very small, though we are not required it, then the field between these positive charges and these negative charges will, how much will be the field? So to find the field, first of all, we need the charge density on both the layers. We assume that the positive charge in this layer of thickness X and negative charge in this layer of thickness X are uniformly distributed with charge density capital N. Keep this thing in mind. Capital N is the free charge density. These charges are bounded. I mean, these charges are neutralized by each other. Only this particular portion is represented by this capital N. Capital N is the volume charge density on the sheets. Okay, so capital N is volume charge density, means in unit volume there exists capital N charge particles. Every of the charge particle is having, suppose, electronic charge E. So N into E is the total charge available multiplied by this thickness. When volume charge density is multiplied by a length, what you get is the surface charge density. So this is the surface charge density, N E into X, on this particular plate, and similarly on this particular plate. Only the difference is that one is having positive charge and another is having a negative charge. So for one plate or one surface, the surface charge density is positive, and for other one it is the negative. Okay. Now we know that if we are having a plate of infinite extent with surface charge density given by rho s, in that case the field by this, and we are having two such fields, two such layers. This is one infinite sheet having positive charges. This is one infinite sheet having negative charges. Both are having same surface charge density with opposite polarity, NEX and minus NEX. In that case, the field between them will be given by expression rho s upon epsilon v. It's an understood result. Okay, I'm not going to establish this result. This result we had already derived in our higher secondary classes. So electric field between these two infinitely extended plates of charge density or surface charge density rho s is given by rho s upon epsilon v. What is epsilon v? Epsilon v is permittivity of this medium in between the two plates. What is this medium? This medium is plasma. So epsilon v is the permittivity of the plasma medium. Later on, we will derive an expression for epsilon v also. Okay. Now, if suppose you place an electron in between here. Suppose some electron is placed here. This thickness is very low. This thickness is very low, and we assume that an electron is placed somewhere very near to this particular plate. Suppose at a distance x. In that case, when we place an electron here, electric field will apply a force on the electron. That force is given by this minus E into E. Substituting the expression for E, we have derived the expression for E as rho s upon EV. Rho s is given by NEX upon epsilon V. So NEX upon epsilon V multiplied by minus E. That will be the force. And why this force? Why this force is there? So to understand this force, first of all, we should understand, suppose you are having this kind of plasma. Initially, you are having plasma without any charge density. When an electromagnetic wave, we need some sort of disturbance. So we consider the disturbance due to the electromagnetic wave. So when electromagnetic waves propagate through the plasma, they disturb some positive negative charges. So a field introduced, and this field this field is due to the disturbance. Now, if some free electron is there, this field will apply some force on the charged particles and try to pull all the positive and negative charged particles which are disturbed back, which are disturbed from the plasma, back to their own positions inside the plasma. So this force you can consider here. This force is the restoring force. This force is a restoring force. Obviously, one more thing. Obviously, this force is a restoring force. Why? Because this F is proportional to X, number one, and it is working in the direction opposite to that of the velocity of the electrons. Okay. So this force F represents the restoring force applied by the plasma. Applied by the plasma on the electrons which are disturbed because of the propagating electromagnetic wave through them. Now, okay, so this is the restoring force. Now we know that the restoring force is, if the restoring force is proportional to the displacement x, if it is linearly proportional to the displacement x, in that case, this force will lead to a simple harmonic motion. We know it very well. To find some solution, we consider that every force can be written as the m into a, mass into acceleration. So F, we are writing here that F will be equals to m into d2x by dt square. X is the displacement, so d2x by dt square is the acceleration, m is mass of the electron, and so mass into acceleration will be equal to minus of ne square epsilon v into x. Taking this portion from right to left, we have this particular expression. We consider n epsilon square upon m epsilon, ne square upon m epsilon v as some constant. N, the electron charge density due to electromagnetic wave, this is a constant. E is electronic charge, a constant. M, mass of electron, is a constant. Epsilon v is the permittivity of plasma. We consider it also as a constant. So if all these things are constant, this will be equals to omega p square. Okay, so this omega p square we substitute here, and this is a linear differential equation of second order. With usual manner, you perform the solution and you find the solution to be periodic. And obviously it is, because the force is restoring force and it is leading to simple harmonic motion, and correspondingly we get this solution. So up to this point, one thing is established, that if you are having a plasma medium and because of some disturbance, if some of the electron get displaced from the plasma medium, the medium will try to pull back all these charges by producing some restoring forces, and these restoring forces will be opposite to the direction of propagation of the free charges. So if electrons are moving in positive x direction, this restoring force will try to pull it back in the negative x direction. Okay, so these are restoring forces and they lead to some oscillations of these free electrons. Okay, we consider that the positive charges are immobile, they will not get disturbed, only negative charge will disturb, and the negative charges will be tried to pull back, and in this manner there exists some oscillations of these free electrons, and these oscillations will follow simple harmonic motion. Okay, this is what we had did till now, is to establish this particular statement. Okay, now we will use this. Now we will use this to find the solutions for electromagnetic wave in plasma. Now we specifically assume that an electromagnetic wave is propagating through the plasma. So we assume that plasma is made of free electrons and positive ions are supposed to be immobile. This N curl and V curl, it's not curl, it's a curly, you can say, it's, I say this particular expression as N bar. Okay, so N bar and V bar are time varying electron densities and electron velocity due to this applied time varying uh, field. Okay, since you had made, we are going to assume that an electromagnetic wave is propagating through ionosphere. So when it passed through ionosphere, when it passed through this uh, ionosphere assumed as a plasma, it disturbed the position of electrons in the plasma, and that's why the charge density, the electron density, not charge density and electron density both, they get disturbed. So their disturbance is represented by this n bar. Okay, and similarly, v is the velocity of this electron. They are having different velocities at different time because of that electromagnetic wave, the pool of electromagnetic wave. V is also time varying, so we represent it by this v bar. Jointly, when we have electron density n, we have velocity of these electrons v. In that case, the current density J is given by n bar E into V bar. We know very well, if you are having electron density, if you are having velocities of these electrons, then n into E is the electronic charge, will be the total charge, into V will be the current density. Okay, so this is the sorry. So this is the current density J, NeV, and surface charge density similarly can be written as N into E. Okay, as we are saying that this is electron density, that means this is the electron number of electrons in unit volume. That's why it is leading to current density, and similarly this is the surface charge density. Okay. Now, what is this N and V? So N and V will be, we are assuming that the electromagnetic wave is propagating through the medium. Since we are assuming an electromagnetic wave, it is a time varying, sinusoidally varying quantity, and correspondingly the electron density n bar and the velocity v bar can be represented with in terms of equation 139 and 140. Capital N, as we have already assumed, is the free charges available due to the disturbance in plasma because of the propagating wave. Okay, they are steady values. Okay, and these steady values get disturbed by a certain amount. So that disturbance around this certain amount by which this capital N get disturbed is given by this particular phasor quantity or this particular instantaneous quantity, in which N is the phasor representing electron density. You can consider capital N to be suppose 10. Suppose this capital N is some quantity 10, and this quantity is representing a sinusoidal variation in the electron density of 1 cos omega t. So, or 1 sin omega t. So what happens at certain instant, this 1 get added to 10 will increase the electron density from up to 11, and at certain instant this will become -1. This variation in electron density, this portion become -1, and it will reduce the electron density by 10 minus 1, that is 9. So what is this n bar? This n bar is sinusoidally varying electron density with average value capital N. Okay, what is this v bar? V bar is just the velocity of electron. When electrons are displacing from their mid position up in a particular direction, their velocity will depend on the magnitude of electric field at that particular instant. Okay, and the magnitude of electric field, of course, is a sinusoidal, and that's why the velocity is also supposed to be sinusoidal. So this v bar is the instantaneous value of the electron velocity, and v phasor is corresponding. This quantity here, v with curly vector, is the phasor corresponding to this particular velocity. Okay. So now combining this 139, 140 and 137. 137 is this particular expression. Substituting n and v from these two equations here, we find that j can be written as this one. Now since v, the variation in velocity due to the electromagnetic wave itself is very small, the variation in electron density due to the electromagnetic wave is itself very small. That's why when we multiply these two things, we get this quantity plus a quantity which is product of this n curly vector, v curly vector, or n phasor and v phasor. So, but n phasor and v phasor are themselves both are very small, and that's why that product is supposed to be approximately 0, and the current density is given by only this particular factor. Okay, by just direct multiplication, by just linear multiplication, you can find this current density as given in equation 141. And assuming that small quantity, the n phasor dot p phasor is supposed to be 0. Okay, so now we have current density due to electromagnetic wave propagating in plasma. When an electromagnetic wave propagates through plasma, it disturbs the particles of the plasma, and because of that disturbance, there exists some current density that is given by this. Okay. Okay. Now, if it is assumed that E is the net electric field phasor due to propagation of wave in plasma, a wave is propagating, it disturbs the free electrons in plasma. Obviously, there will be some net electric field of the wave which disturbs this. If they disturb, then the force on the electric or force on the electron will be given by E into capital E. As you can see here, E into capital E. And this force will be equivalent to, or this force will be equivalent to the mass into acceleration. Now, what is mass into acceleration? So acceleration can be written as dy dt of the velocity phasor, or the velocity, instantaneous velocity of the particle. So this is dv by dt is the acceleration. This is mass. Jointly, this is the dp by dt, that is the rate of change of momentum, which is equal to this particular force. If we write this expression in terms of the phasor, so you can perform the differentiation. The phasor is free of time. That's why V phasor goes out of the differentiation, and you differentiate e to the power j omega t with respect to t, which is equal to j omega e to the power j omega t. E to the power j omega t and j omega t get cancelled, and this quantity become this, or we find this particular expression. Similarly, using the expression for j, as we have already derived, using the expression for j, there is the expression for j, this is expression for j here. Okay, when we talk about phasor, we loss or we remove this e to the power j omega t, only NeV phasor we will use for j. So using this expression in the Maxwell's equation, first equation gives you del cross H is equals to j omega epsilon 0 E. This is the wave propagating. Okay, this portion is due to the propagation of wave, plus j. This portion is due to the disturbances made by this wave in plasma medium. So this becomes NeV. Okay. Similarly, del cross E is written as minus j omega mu 0 h. Del dot E is written as rho v is equals to, what is rho v? So we actually this, okay, there is a mistake in this particular expression. This should be del dot E is equals to rho v upon epsilon 0. Keep this thing in mind. Okay. So it is rho v upon epsilon 0, and rho v is volume charge density, which is given by n into E. So it is n into E upon epsilon 0, and similarly there is del dot H is equals to 0. So these are four equations. Jointly we represent all these things like here. From first equation, from this equation, we find the velocity phasor in terms of electric field intensity. So the velocity phasor will be given by E into electric field phasor divided by j omega m. Okay, and substituting this V phasor into this expression. Second, we have del cross H is equals to j omega epsilon 0 E plus any V phasor. Okay. Now, in place of V, we substitute the E electric field divided by E into electric field phasor divided by j omega m here. So what we have is del cross H is equals to this. From this expression, we take j omega epsilon 0 into E common. The remaining portion looks like this. From simple algebraic manipulation, you can find this particular expression. J omega epsilon 0 into this quantity into E. N E square upon epsilon 0 m. N E square upon epsilon 0 m is the standard plasma frequency. Earlier we have used N E square upon epsilon Vm. Okay, so that is the plasma frequency. Here we have plasma frequency with absolute permittivity. Epsilon 0 is absolute permittivity. This is the omega p square. This is constant right now. This is the constant. Okay, and so this expression become equal to j omega epsilon 0 into 1 minus omega p square upon omega. This particular quantity, this complete quantity, in which epsilon 0 is the absolute permittivity, this portion is a constant less than 1, which is multiplied to epsilon 0, will give the permittivity of the plasma. This complete equation is defined over that plasma medium. Okay, and this epsilon V is the permittivity of the plasma given by this particular expression, epsilon 0 into 1 minus omega p square upon omega square. Keep this in mind. Okay, and similarly we can find the this portion is defined as the relative permittivity. We know very well relative permittivity is the permittivity divided by the absolute permittivity. So epsilon V for plasma divided by absolute permittivity epsilon 0 is equal to relative permittivity K0, or the same thing is written as 1 minus omega p square omega square. Many of the books will consider omega p square upon omega square as x. So this expression can be written as 1 minus x. Okay. So what we had performed till now, first of all, we had proved that plasma has a certain specific property. If you disturb plasma, the plasma will try to pull back the disturbance, or try to freeze the disturbances, so that the system or the plasma state will again become stable. And for doing it, it performs or it applies some restoring forces on the imbalance particles, and these restoring forces establishes the simple harmonic motion. Later on, we find in the next section we find that this plasma medium is having this much uh, permittivity. Epsilon B is equals to epsilon 0 into 1 minus omega p square upon epsilon square. Now, there are some conclusions regarding this particular expression, as you can see here. Epsilon B upon epsilon 0 and something. So using this expression, we are having some conclusion. You can check by yourself that if omega is less than omega p, what is omega? Omega is the frequency of the electromagnetic wave which is propagating to the plasma and disturbing the plasma. Omega p is a constant. We refer this constant as the plasma. So if omega is less than omega p, if the operating frequency of the wave is less than the plasma frequency, you get relative permittivity K less than 0. When relative permittivity K is less than 0, beta, the phase constant, become imaginary. And when you use this imaginary phase constant in wave equation, you found that phase term e to the power minus j beta x become real. It becomes real, and it shows that these particular frequencies get attenuated, as you can see in the first expression. For all frequencies omega less than omega p, electromagnetic waves will be attenuated by the plasma. And what is the meaning of attenuation in case of plasma? Here, in case of plasma, it doesn't mean that these frequencies get attenuated means their energy get absorbed by the plasma. Rather, it means that these particular waves will not pass through plasma. They will get reflected back. So all the frequencies less than plasma frequency omega p will be reflected back by the ionosphere. And so this particular range for omega less than omega p will be one which is responsible for communication through ionospheric region. The 3 to 30 megahertz in our information, as per our information. Okay. Frequencies which are beyond omega p. If you are having omega greater than omega p, if you are sending a wave which is having frequency greater than omega p, for those frequency k is less than 1 and beta is real, and correspondingly e to the power minus j beta x shows a propagating wave. So all the frequencies with frequency all the waves with frequency greater than plasma frequency will pass through this ionosphere without any problem. They will propagate through. And when they will propagate through, these frequencies will not reflect it back. They will pass the ionosphere, and so you cannot receive any communication on this particular frequencies. So for those frequencies with omega greater than omega p, there will be no communication. Okay. Then omega p is the plasma, and so on the basis of these two things, we can say that omega p, the plasma frequency, is the cutoff frequency for plasma. Frequencies below which will be absorbed and will be reflected towards the radio station or receiver, and frequency above this will not be absorbed, will not be attenuated, and they get passed through the ionosphere. Okay, so this is the boundary. and the meaning of attenuation is made clear. In practical situations, some of the energy is not perfect, or it is not 100% true that there will be no attenuation in the ionosphere. There will be some attenuation, and that attenuation performs some collision of electrons with atoms. Okay, there is some random behavior of, there are free electrons in the atmosphere, and these free electrons will absorb some of the energy. Using this particular energy, they start shaking on their own positions or moving in random direction. They collide with the immobile ions, as we had considered. They collide with immobile ions, they collide with heavy gaseous molecules, and because of this collision, some of the energy get absorbed by the ionosphere. Okay, so some of the energy get absorbed, which is responsible for these collisions. But if we consider this phenomena also, in that case, the frequency is omega less than omega p, which will be reflected towards the receiver, and we considered that the reflection is perfect. But now, if you consider collision, that reflection is not perfect; rather, it is partial reflection. And similarly, the waves with frequency omega greater than omega p, they are passing through, as we had considered, or as we had find, that they are passing through the plasma medium without any problem. Now they will pass having some attenuation, or they will pass through with some attenuation. Their energy get reduced. Okay, so that's all for today. In the next lecture, we will try to find this expression. We will try to modify this expression for the permittivity of plasma, using, or in case of when we consider collision also. Okay, and we tried to prove that even with the help of, even in the presence of collisions, if certain condition is satisfied, this expression 143 is the best approximation for the permittivity of plasma. Okay, so thank you very much for today.